Yo, what's up, chiropractic community, chiropractic family? We're going to cut right to the chase. We stink at this one. Communication. You're like, wait a minute. Yeah, I'm getting better. I'm communicating better about pediatric chiropractic to my patients, to my community. It's working better than ever before. Yeah, that's where it starts. Once you learn how to communicate the message of chiropractic to your community and to families, your practice explodes. And then here comes this problem. And a lot of times, this one's even harder than the first one. Because once you become good at communicating chiropractic, converting patients into care, transforming their nervous systems and their lives, you get busy. The moment you get busy, you need to hire team members. You need CAs. You need associate doctors. You need people to help you. And the number one thing you must do in order to get them to effectively help you is to effectively communicate to them. So in this video, we're going to teach you 3 tips to communicate effectively. And I'm actually going to sneak in another word here, efficiently, because like you, I'm running a busy practice. I've got kids, family, life. We're busy. They're busy. So both the owner, the leaders, and the team members are busy. So we're going to effectively and efficiently communicate here together as a team. So first off, let me just give you a big Chiro bro hug here, because I got to tell you, I was literally world-class awful at this. Like if there's a ranking system and then there's a very smelly, moldy bottom to that ranking system, I began there. Not for a day or a month, many years. We actually built our practice to about 500, 600 a week, and I had multiple associates and multiple CAs before it finally smacked me right in the face enough times to realize how awful I was at communicating to my team and turn it around using a bunch of things and a bunch of mentorship that got me there. Especially the last couple of years, it's improved greatly because I'm around these folks who have built big mega teams, and it's all about communication and clarity. And so here's 3 of the most important things I can teach you about how to effectively and efficiently communicate with your team so you're all moving in the right direction. You're all going after that mission and vision. You're working productively. You're working efficiently. You're creating massive impact in your community all together, and you're having fun and less stress while doing it. Yes, it's a real, actual reality you can get to. These 3 things will help you do that. Number 1, when it comes to communication with your team, each individual team members and the team as a whole. So I'm actually, this number 1 applies in two particular directions. You need to do this individually with each team member, and you need to do this with the team as a whole too. The first thing I can tell you about communication is you need to do a ton of it. We'll actually call it an extra amount of it early on in the relationship. Now, this is called onboarding, and it should seem obvious, but most of us skip this stage tremendously. We do a very little amount of onboarding, particularly communication, in the early phases of a new team member, and we wonder why they struggle forever forward after that. So when you're hiring a new team member, this becomes really, really hard because you're probably hiring them because you're busier than ever. When you're busier than ever, you look at your schedule and you have less open time, less mental bandwidth than ever. You need to take that time. You need to make that time. You need to protect that time for this new team member to come in and be able to frequently, consistently, extra communicate with you in the first 30, 60, 90 days. And what effective communication is, period, right? Whether we're talking to patients or to team members, is most importantly making sure that they feel heard, making sure that you're listening. The best communicators are not the best speakers, they're the best listeners. The reason I'm doing this video is because I'm helping a ton of our PX practices right now who have increased their certainty, increased their clinical skill set, increased their communication and their marketing skills, and their practices are on fire, and they're hiring left and right. And then they're coming back to us inside our community and inside our support inbox and going, I'm struggling to get my team on board. I'm struggling to get my team accountable. I'm struggling to get my team to be productive. And the major absolute primary subluxation in a team that is struggling, or a boss or an owner who's struggling, I hate the word boss, a leader who is struggling with that team is communication. And if you narrow in on that, the first step here is the most important, because you need to do extra copious amounts of communication, listening, connecting, and training together during that onboarding process. They need clear expectations for their role and their job. They need a clear understanding understanding of exactly what that looks like when the job is well done. So they need it to be explained to them with clarity and completeness early on. And then they need to have an open forum and a consistent place to come back and ask questions and make sure, hey, am I doing this the way you want? Am I meeting those expectations? Clear expectations and a channel of communication for feedback to make sure that they're being hit. Number two, I just snuck that word in here, and it's number two. Be consistent with your communication. Now, I want to break this one down for you. You need to be consistent in the tone of communication. You can't be short, terse, grumpy, and a-holy one day, and then, I love chiropractic, I love you, everything is wonderful the other day. Be consistent in your tone, in your attitude, in your mood, and in your energy. That's hard. There's a lot of tough days when you're running a practice. There is April when you got to pay your taxes. There is whatever, payroll week, there is a lot of things when you run a practice, own a practice, and are a team leader that are not going to make you real all happy and positive and wanting to have these long, open conversations on the outside. And we're going to come back to the word long and we're going to trim it down to efficient. And that doesn't matter. Your job is to be there for them consistently with the same tone and the same effectiveness of your communication. When you're with your team, you're at your best. That is the line in the sand. Second, be consistent with your timing. You got to be there consistently, meaning you can't just disappear for your team and they only get these little snippets of time to communicate and connect with you. And I would even be consistent with your location or the place or the forum that you use for communication. I'm in there twice a week with my team, especially at the beginning of the week on Mondays. I am the most tired, my brain, on Monday nights by any other night of my week by far, because I make my brain most available, intentionally available to be picked at on Mondays. I am there for my team. We have our meetings at a specific location in a specific setting, and they know that that is the best time by far. They can get my help. They can communicate and connect with me. So I'm always ready for Mondays. And when you get to number three, I'm always in the number three space. I'm always ready to rock. And if I notice that I'm off base, man, I don't even want to be in there because I don't want to mess up the consistency of my tone, my timing, and the opportunity and the location to communicate with my team. And number three, always be forward-looking with your communication. So when we're talking about communicating effectively with your team, you need to do a lot of it in the early stages, and always. You need to be consistent with it. Always have an open door. Always be there for them. Not every day. They don't get to text you at 10:30 at night. You shouldn't be texting them at 10:30 at night and putting out fires. There is a consistent tone and a consistent time and a consistent place for communication. And number three, every single conversation with your team member, no matter 10 seconds or 2 hours at a big planning meeting, needs to be forward-looking. Now, hear me on this one. Forward-looking does not mean you avoid conflict, does not mean when somebody's not getting the job done that you don't use what Gary Vee, and I love the way he does everything, including his leadership, kind candor. When someone isn't meeting the mark, they need to know that the mark is not being met. If they're not delivering clinical excellence, communication excellence, if they're not really being congruent with the core values and the mission and the culture of the practice, they're going to hear it from me. The way in which they're going to hear it from me and our leadership team is not looking backwards and complaining about the past and criticizing them and shaming them and putting them down and pointing out all their problems and pointing out all their faults. That's called horrendous leadership, okay? They will pack up before you even give them a chance to pack up if you do it that way. The reason I wrote down the third tip here is always be forward-looking and mission-minded in your communication is you then get a chance to fix it forward. Write those words down. Fix it forward is how I live. I don't get stressed at all about any problems. Okay? Now, you're like, wait a minute. Holy blanket statement, you liar. Now, if I break that down, does it catch me for about 2.8 seconds before I look to the future, look to the forward, look to a strategy and figure out how to fix it? Yes. doesn't take me long in my forward-looking, always fixing, always adapting, always improving, always knowing there's going to be a problem that it's my job to solve and get better for the future. I have such a forward-looking, forward-focused brain. I can bring my team with me into these conversations and communications, and I can say, hey, right now, the job's not getting done the way we need it to get done. What we want to do is get these things in a better place going forward. We want to do X, Y, and Z going forward. We want to see you do X, Y, and Z differently and better going forward, because our forward moving mission is to save as many kids and families as possible in this community. So if we don't get better going forward, we're not achieving our mission and accomplishing our vision. And that is the biggest thing that you and I are both committed to. So every tough conversation actually isn't that tough if you're not living in the past and the present, but living in the future instead. So again, let me just say the same thing one more time. Always having forward-focused conversations means you can have tough conversations, means you can handle conflict, means you can handle an underperforming team member, and you're not calling them out based upon what they've done. You're setting up expectations based upon what they need to do going forward. Now you've drawn that line in the sand for them and for you that says, okay, now when we look to the future and we look forward, if these expectations that are not being met right now don't get met in the future anymore, you don't need to say what they know you're already saying. Hey, this relationship will not continue in the forward. You won't continue being here in the forward future if you can't fix it forward. So my team knows they have the absolute vulnerability and openness to make mistakes, to run into challenges, to screw things up. They know that we'll be right there for them to listen and hear their version and their interpretation, to help re-equip, resource, and train them to go forward. A lot of times when they're messing up, it's because we messed up. We didn't have clear communication, clear expectations, clear training, and clear resources. So 99% of the time when a team member messes up, I'm taking that on my shoulders and I'm taking responsibility, and I'm looking forward to say, how could I have trained you better, onboarded you better, communicated with you better, so that this mistake didn't happen. So together, we're looking forward. So that's an in-depth training right there. We got into a lot. None of my videos that I always think are going to be 5 to 7 minutes are ever 5 to 7 minutes. I usually take 5 to 7 minutes per topic to really, really teach it to you, because I really, really want you to improve in this place. Because when you get certain about pediatric and family chiropractic, then clinically skilled at delivering it and communicating, and then super skilled at communicating it to the public and getting tons of patients in, tons of referrals, tons of retention, you're gonna need a team. And now this whole new set of communication skill sets from you to your team is going to need to be going from crap, where mine was, to strong, to where mine is now. And I want you to have it, because I've been able to see the fruits of this labor, if you will, and doing these 3 things and effectively and efficiently communicating to our team. And that's how our practice continues to grow so massively, with less and less stress and less and less work on my shoulders, because I can effectively train and communicate to the team to get them to lift the whole big boat along with us every single day. Share this one, comment on this one, put your struggles in here, type them out, I'll help. Put your questions in here, type them out, we'll help. Love you. See you on the next one.